So Faraday, we're developing US domestic sources of copper. Our flagship property, Copper Creek, is one of the largest undeveloped copper resources in the US that's still in the hands of a junior. We've got 4.2 billion pounds of copper in the M&I category. We recently delivered a PEA which demonstrates a robust project with a 30-year mine life, producing an average of 50,000 tons of copper over that period of time, both open pit and underground. And we've got significant exploration upside across the district, as well as with the resource expansion. You know, we're well financed. We've got $20 million in cash, which is sufficient to deliver on our key milestones over the next 12 months. Faraday, before Faraday, it used to be called Copper Bank, and Copper Bank was set up with that definition to be a bank to store copper assets in. And essentially the projects were not being operated, they hadn't been worked on for 10 years, there was no management team, it was essentially a non-trading shell on the CSE. We were introduced to Copper Bank, saw the opportunity, really excited about it, put a proposal to the board in September 2021, and we took over the management 2 years ago. And so then part of that taking over the company was to rebrand it to Faraday, put a full management team together, and restart technical work. Copper Creek is situated in the sort of big producing copper belts of southern Arizona. You know, we're in the land of giants. We're surrounded by BHP, Freeport, Rio, etc. We've got two styles of mineralization. One is breccia pipes. They are high grade. They've got a core of high grade copper mineralization that are more than 1% copper. And then they've got a lower grade envelope around them. This is what supports the open pit resource. And then the second style of mineralization is a sheeted vein stockwork, which is hosted by porphyries, and that is what constitutes the underground resource. And when you talk about exploration opportunities, we've got over 400 breccias that have been mapped at surface. Only 35 have had a drill hole or more, and just 17 are in the resource. So that really shows you that the potential upside is these multiple breccias that we've got to go out and test. Now, the new drill results that we've had over the last sort of few months was part of a 10,000 meter drill program that wasn't part of the PEA or the mineral resource estimate. So that's really demonstrating the upside above what we've already published to the market. So those results confirm extensions to the mineralization, particularly outside of the current design open pits. So supports that thesis that we can significantly grow the resource going forward, and that mineralization still remains open at depth and laterally. So we've obviously shown that the resource itself is open, and then we've got these multiple targets in the district to follow up as well. We are following up on that. We've got a 20,000 meter drill program due to start in the next month, which is going to be targeting both the resource expansion and new targets. Yeah, so it's going to be, as I say, 20,000 meters, diamond drilling. We're currently finalizing, the distribution of those meters, but certainly it's going to be following up both on that open pit expansion as well as the underground, looking at the higher grade mineralization, and then starting to expand out beyond that resource to test that portfolio of new targets. Then that's really exciting, and so I think there's something for investors to look out for is the results from that drill program as we move forward. I think towards the end of the year. Well, firstly, I'd start by saying what our sort of overall strategy is, and the management team are all people that have come out of senior mining companies. We've all been involved in making grassroots discoveries, taking them through the development pipeline and into production. And so what we're doing at Faraday is really bringing that senior company mentality into the junior world. And what do I mean by that? It's about making sure that we've got empirical data to make those informed decisions. I think all too often in our sector, particularly in the study phase and around the PEA, people use a lot of assumptions. We're making sure we're using that technical data to really drive our future work. And so, really it's about partnering up with, top-class consultants to really collect that empirical data and then drive that study process, from PA, PFS, and through to development. No, I mean, certainly, when you think about it, historically, Arizona was built on the copper industry. Everything that's there today has been built on copper, and, currently it produces 70% of the US domestic sources of copper, so a really important driver for the US economy in terms of copper generation. And as you point out, great infrastructure, whether it's roads, rail, power, water, skilled workforce, they're all the positives. But I think then, you turn to the negatives, and, permitting timelines have been challenging, the environmental groups and legal groups, questioning even federal permitting once they've been granted. And I think this is all part of this clean energy transition. To me, this is like a new industrial revolution. We've gone from hydrocarbons, which we're all familiar with. I think there's still people who are skeptical about EVs, but I view it, so when you effect change, you put people out of their comfort zone. And what do people do? They put up barriers and challenges. They want to slow things down. But I view it, the analogy is like a tsunami. You can put up barriers, you can't stop it, it's coming. And I think particularly in light of the summer that the Western hemisphere or Northern Hemisphere has had this summer with, forest fires, heat waves, and then flooding, is really pushing everyone to say we've got to accelerate this clean energy transition. And so copper's, a key part of that. And, what also, with the unfortunate circumstances around the Ukraine war, then, countries are now looking back internally and saying we need domestic sources of these metals, and so we've got to start facilitating permit, because mining has got to be a key component of that transition. But there's obviously challenges in place as we go through this change. So I'd say the biggest challenge is that permitting timeframe. The unfortunate situation is when we see a disaster in the mining industry, it can be horrific. When you think about the tailings dam burst in Brazil and the environmental damage and the pollution that it caused, that resonates with people, and it's a really hard challenge to overcome and say that mining is the right thing. And so, engagement is key, whether it's, all stakeholders, governments, local communities, making sure that, as I say, coming back to that empirical data, because you find a lot of these disasters in the mining industry are technical failures, a tailings dam burst, an underground collapse that results in fatalities. A lot of that can be stopped by, companies doing proper technical work. And so, as I said to you earlier, about making sure that we're doing technical work to the highest of standards, we've got that empirical data to make those informed decisions. And then making sure we're collecting the environmental data. We've also signed a letter of agreement with a solar power company, looking at putting a solar farm in so that we are, producing copper from a renewable source of energy as well. And being a good corporate citizen, because the spotlight is on you even more. I think, a lot of people's perceptions of the mining industry is still of this dirty, polluting industry. The reality is that, modern day mines, the regulations that are behind them, are a lot cleaner than most cities. And certainly when they get, rehabilitated, you wouldn't even know there was a mine there. And so I think another key part is education. I think all too often we don't market ourselves, we don't educate the general population, and that's a key thing going forward. Look, I recognize that for the majority of investors right now, it's challenging times. High interest rates, high inflation, people worrying about their mortgages, their utility bills, putting food on the table, But as we come through this economic crisis, the sort of tsunami of clean energy transition comes through, demand for copper going up, then Faraday is going to be well positioned in terms of having a development ready asset in the US to support this. And you know, we feel we're significantly undervalued. We've got a number of catalysts coming up over the 12 months, and it's an exciting time to be part of Faraday and to be invested in the company.